Hey Jim, can you hear us?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Has anybody heard from Tyler this morning?
Yet.
So the report that I got is that it's still snowing. Is this correct?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
very much so.
A lot. We shoveled a bunch yesterday and we have like 12 more inches on our railing.
Oh, that's terrific.
It's amazing.
Guess we'll give Tyler a couple more minutes and then we'll get the ball rolling.
Okay. I'll be right back. I mean, I'll be here.
So you might know the call.
Be the Jim and Dana show.
Looks like it.
We'll give Tyler all the hard jobs.
Mhm.
Well, it's about 10 after, so now it is 10 after, so let's go ahead and get started and we can fill Tyler in if he joins us late. So it is January 17th, 2023, Tuesday at 9:10 a.m. This is the Town of Silverton Finance Committee meeting, and I call this meeting to order. Right now we have everybody in attendance as far as the trustees go, except for Tyler George. So we have Dana Krinker and Jim Harper as trustees in attendance. As well, we have Lucy Mulville, our what's your title again?
Community Development Coordinator.
Community Development Coordinator, and myself, Matt Green, the town clerk. Is there any addition or alterations to the agenda from the committee?
No, sir.
Nope.
All right. So then we'll go ahead and get started with our first agenda item, our pass-through policy for planning. And you want to take that over, Lucy?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm here to introduce the idea of a pass-through policy for our planning department. Pass-through policies just pass through any additional costs the town takes on while reviewing a planning application. Now that we're working with CPS, they are charging, we pay them about a little over $100 an hour to review applications. So when we get really complicated applications or when we get applications that are unfinished, we take on a lot of those charges. Additionally, as planning applications are getting more complex in avalanche zones, in wetland areas, in steep slope zones, it takes a lot more expertise and a lot more time to review these applications. And it's really important that we have that time to kind of protect the health, safety, and welfare of our community. So if you guys have a chance to look at the packet, you'll see some of the past invoices from CPS, which are charging, you know, a lot of money to review applications. And this is really because applications are unfinished, they're not, you know, complete, or it takes a lot of coordinating with the applicants to kind of discuss what's missing. And so this pass-through policy would really incentivize complete applications and kind of give us some more flexibility to kind of review as best we can. Additionally, we have also been consulting a lot with our public works town engineer and our town attorney on a lot of these more complex applications. And so this will also kind of pass those costs on to the applicant so that the town and taxpayers are not running the cost for private development. That being said, there is a way to kind of break this pass-through policy to encourage desirable development in Silverton, such as kind of affordable housing and local development. So we can waive fees in accordance to what the town wants to see, be that, you know, duplexes, affordable housing, housing in general, development done by locals, et cetera. So that's kind of my overview. If you have any questions or any direction, any ideas, I would love to hear what you have to say about that. Also, pass-through policies are really common for planning departments. I put in a few examples of other communities' pass-through policies around our size, and our building department and our public works department have similar policies in place.
Is it just me or is it real quiet?
Did you not get any
Okay,
of
good.
that?
Okay.
We're here.
All right, I'll jump in really quick. I think this is good, and whatever is going to help you and help the process be more efficient, I'm all for. If the process and what I read and what you're telling me is comparable to other communities, then why not? I'm all for it.
Yeah, to me, it feels normal or typical.
Yep.
I think what I worry about is sometimes I think our current planning process isn't necessarily normal or typical. And so are we adding on a level for folks that makes it more complicated unintentionally, right? Like I think philosophically, it makes a lot of sense to have a pass-through policy to put the cost on the applicant within a certain reasonableness, and how do we make sure that in tandem, we're making our overall processes more efficient and clear and straightforward. So we're incentivizing complete applications, which is great, but why are they incomplete to begin with, right? Because the expectations of the applicant are not clear, or these lots are more complicated and we always don't know how to handle them. And so I think I approach all this policy development and land use from a perspective of, does this make it easier to build the things we want or harder? And especially for the average local or person, right? And so again, I think in principle, it makes a lot of sense, but will we have an unintentional effect of making it more complicated or expensive for?
Yeah, so what I'll say in response to that is Katie and I have begun. Yeah, thank you for that. Katie and I have begun doing pre-application meetings with people. It's not part of our official process, but it's a really easy thing. We just say, hey, let's set up a meeting.
Yeah.
And we've been taking the time to kind of come up with kind of the way the procedure for that specific application is going to look like. That's not ideal. We'd rather have that in place, and that's what we're working towards. But that's kind of something that we're doing right now to assist the applicant and to give them really clear expectations. So last week we had a meeting with an applicant and we gave them kind of every single step and gave them pretty much everything they needed to get that in. And eventually we'd like to get to the place where that is just standard and anyone can find that information. But this pre-application process is really going to help. And then when we have that meeting, that is a time where we could say, okay, this is, we have this pass-through policy. And so this basically, if you get everything in, it is going to help you. You're going to probably pay less. And so I think that will help kind of like the everyday person who just really wants to build kind of a house. On the other side of that, we have kind of larger private developers who really could pay the fee to kind of get the legal advice that we need. We just don't have the policy in place to charge them for that. So there's been instances where we had Clayton spend hours and Katie spend hours writing up a document that needed to be done and the town had to pay for it.
Yeah.
The developers absolutely could have paid for it. So this policy just kind of just gives us that tool to kind of charge when we need to, but also gives us a tool to say, well, you want to build a house and it's going to kind of build our housing stock. We can waive this fee for you, or, you can pay the standard 500, or if we decide that we need to really do a lot of work, we can kind of say in front of the trustees, we'll waive that.
Yeah.
Additional service.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think you guys have this perspective. I would encourage you guys in CPS that we just really approach it with the perspective of making it easy and doable to build what we want. And I would hate to see a process where waivers are coming before the board of trustees all the time, right? That would, to me, would sort of defeat the whole purpose of efficiency and recouping costs. And so maybe if there were like a couple, if you guys work out the details on kind of what are standards for why we would waive it, like a checklist, or why would this be waived and certain things that could be considered. So I don't know. I just think those are the things that come up in my mind. And also the idea that we have a lot of infill lots in town, but we also have a lot of more complicated lots now. And I think it makes sense to see development happen on those. And if there are already multiple hurdles to jump through to develop on those lots, and then we add another layer, again, it sort of disincentivizes development as a whole. So, but I think your judgment and Katie and TJ's, I think you guys bring a lot of expertise. So I'm not philosophically opposed to this. I just really hope it doesn't lead to a bunch of waiver requests coming to the board and disincentivizing the small average Joe from being able to build on their lot.
Yeah.
And I guess another piece I had with that is sort of what's the base level of service that an applicant could expect from the building department? I mean, because the building department is here to sort of protect the interests of the town, right? And build appropriately according to our master plan and our code. But we also have salaries and we have a department. And so is there a certain level of service that the applicant can expect from the building department? And then like you said, on top of that, then that's where they have to incur more costs.
Right. And I would say that, the average Joe most likely wouldn't see a pass-through policy.
Yeah.
Because they pay a certain fee and that fee covers, a lot of work.
Yeah.
I'd say in a lot of cases, it's pretty low and it's low compared to other communities. But if you have to go through use subject to review and it's a simple thing, we just do a 3-hour review that fee will likely cover it.
That's a level of service that's standard.
It's really just the additional services. So going to the town engineer, going to the town attorney, or additional services beyond a staff report by myself and CPS.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything else to add there or questions?
No, it's good. It's this discussion filled in a lot of gaps for me. But really what it's about is making it more user friendly and getting that linear line of progress. Here's where you start, here's where you finish. We'll help you along the way. These are the bullet points you need to hit. And while keeping it more user friendly for the average Joe that you guys are talking about. No, I'm almost.
Yeah. It seems like we have some growing pains too, right? We're working on standardizing things more. We're working on making it more transparent and clear of how to get through the process efficiently.
Right.
And I guess a question I would have as we think about this policy is, do all waivers have to come to the board? Or some waivers, if you're building from this list of things or your project meets these requirements, the board doesn't even need to see them, that there's more staff oversight of that. So I think maybe that's a little bit more of a discussion, but I'm in favor of having a policy like this. And we'll just kind of work through it. We'll kind of have to see how it goes. If we're getting a bunch of stuff come before us, or if it seems like people are having a big problem with it or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other notes or direction or things you'd want to see specifically in the policy?
Let me look again. I liked all your packet stuff, Lucy. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry if it was a lot.
I don't think so. I mean, these policies seem pretty standard. Yeah, and I really appreciate hearing that you're having those pre-application meetings with the applicant, because then again, I think it makes it more upfront about what they can expect from staff, what they might need to add on. So
Yeah.
as long as that continues to happen, I think, and people are aware up front what they might be getting into, I think that is what I kind of care about.
Awesome.
Do you have anything to add?
It keeps the process moving so it doesn't get bogged down when you're in the middle of something.
Yeah.
If I know that this is coming up at this date and I need to be doing this, then it just keeps that process. One of the things with Lisa was that she had to hold hands a lot through the process.
Mhm.
I feel that this helps it along and eliminates a lot of that hand holding, so that everyone can progress at the same time and people are able to get their work done. So I like this. I'm all about it.
And pay for the experts we need. Is there any place where an applicant would be particularly surprised about how much they ended up paying out of pocket? Like,
I don't think they'd be surprised. I mean, I think we would let them know kind of what we're doing, and yeah, I don't think we'd ever like,
here's a bill for the lawyer for
I don't think
$1,000.
I don't think we'd ever go like behind their back and kind of go talk to an expert without kind of telling them. And I also think that they would understand, I mean, I think in a really steep hazard zone, they have a geotech report that we, kind of need some help analyzing, or if they want to we have someone doing on this side of town, they want to do like a really steep road, and we've been talking to our engineer about that.
Yeah.
And they know that. So that's kind of an example, I guess.
Yeah.
We would maybe bill them for some engineering time.
Yeah.
But they're aware that that is happening. So yeah, I don't think anyone would ever be surprised. I guess maybe someone would be surprised if they were missing a really big chunk of their application, and, Katie and I needed to follow up with them a lot and get that information, and they weren't really providing it in the way that we needed it. And it was taking us, hours to kind of figure that missing piece out. I guess that might be, but I mean, they would know that we'd be contacting them.
Yeah.
So
yeah. They would be, again, it's still staff time. We're honoring that and having applicants share a cost of that. Yeah. Okay, great. As long as you just keep approaching with, let's make it easy to build the things we want to see built.
Yeah, absolutely. That is definitely the goal for this policy. And there's a big part of it is the incentivizing desirable development.
That's great.
So would you all be comfortable with me bringing this to the board in the next couple of meetings?
Yeah, I am.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All
Happy
right.
snow day.
Happy snow day. Jim, where are you?
I'm in South Florida.
Oh, wow.
Very
I
different.
don't know if you can see.
Swimming.
I don't know if you can see behind me, but this is all Boy Scout gear. I've spent the past several days camping in the Everglades.
Oh, wow.
With the Boy Scout troop. So it's been pretty good.
Wow.
It's been pretty fun.
That is awesome.
A lot warmer than where we are here.
Yeah, seriously. Well, enjoy.
It was in the high 30s each morning waking up. So that down here was devastating for everybody.
Yeah, that is chilly.
Yeah, right. But I'll be home soon.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item on our agenda is discussion of establishing EQRs and discussing the sustainability of the refuse fund. This has been one of my big long projects. I just got over here probably started this last December when Bill was starting to wrap things up.
Yeah.
I didn't include it in, I just kind of have screenshots, but if you see the spreadsheets that I posted in there, I do have the actual spreadsheet in there so we can twist those knobs and, you know, figure out what kind of happy medium ground we want to figure out.
Yeah.
But bottom line up front, right now, the refuse fund is operating at a 40% deficit. As you might remember, last meeting, we had to pass a resolution to transfer money from the general fund to the refuse fund to make it back into a zero balance. And one of the things that we found when looking into the sustainability of the refuse fund is that businesses aren't actually paying more than a residential rate. They're paying the same amount for trash disposal services as a single family residence, despite how much more waste they might be producing. And so EQR rates are something that the town does have in its code for water and sewer. I just don't think it has specifically called out to trash. However, there is a code in the refuse codes that says that it shall be billed as a utility like water and sewer. So, you know, looking at it that way, there might already be, you know, precedent for establishing an EQR without having to pass a further ordinance. But if we look into how Bill develops the EQR rates, if we establish that as presented, as well as move over the accounts for the town facility refuse. I think I broke that out in the third page on the, let's see, page 39 of the PDF.
Okay.
If we break out all of those cells in blue into their corresponding facility accounts in the general fund and establish those EQRs, we'll be able to cover the remaining amounts, which is the transfer station line across the bottom.
The 230,000.
Yes, sir. Because about $38,000 is what is charged from town facilities, such as the cans on Main Streets, you know, picking up at the public workshop.
That's like our share of the trash transfer.
Whereas the transfer station line is all end users, you know, the public.
Yeah, this is neat seeing this in Excel format, because I remember when Bill was going to the different businesses and counting chairs, counting seating capacity, and asking certain questions. So this is really neat to see it in this form, to see all that work. I like that.
Yeah.
And then I skipped a couple of sheets in that spreadsheet that has this kind of like the back end, like counts of all the businesses and, you know, where they fall in there.
Yeah. I mean, how much of an increase are we really talking for, you know, one of our medium-sized restaurants? How much would they typically be seeing as an increase?
Sure, pull it up.
I'm going to guess your business rate. You have your rates here.
So restaurants will be seeing an average of about $200 increase per cycle.
And how many cycles are there per?
6.
6, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense to do something like that, right? I think it's perfectly reasonable to say everybody should pay their fair share, because we are a town that has to transfer our trash out of the valley. And it makes sense that everybody pays a fair share of that transfer cost. I think a question in my mind is just how to communicate effectively with our business owners and our small businesses. And, you know, I think as a town, we want to demonstrate support for our small business owners and our businesses that are here, while also kind of communicating the fairness of it all. So for me, it's not, I don't have a problem with the policy. I think the rates and the way you've broken it down and the thought you've put into it makes a lot of sense to me. To me, it's just how do we communicate effectively and make it make sense for our small business owners. And Jim, I don't know if you have anything to add or if you have any good tips on that one.
No, this is a step in the right direction. For years, it's, you know, businesses, and especially ones that are a little bit more complicated, using the grand in this example, because of the hotel restaurant component, we're all on the same meter. We need to be charged a higher rate. It is fair, and it is, using the word equitable. It's the right thing to do. And I'm glad we're moving in this direction because, just as you just said, Dana, we need to pay our fair share, and that's it. And it's how it is everywhere else. So,
Do you have a good idea or do you have any suggestions on how best to communicate the policy? Because it's one thing to implement it, be all in agreement on how it should go, but brainstorming around how best to ease people into it, communicate the change, why it's needed. Do you have any thoughts?
well, I think we can have a public forum on it as far as one of our little presentations at the beginning of a meeting. But I really think it's going to be going door to door and just speaking to the business owners themselves. And Bill's fantastic at that.
Yeah.
Okay, and of course, there's always the option to do mailers.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, mailers as well.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think
me personally, the face to face is always, that's just me.
yeah, well, and maybe even, it's something we can talk about in the Chamber of Commerce meeting and get the word out there as well. But yeah, I think just making sure people realize, I think making sure it's clear to folks that the cost they pay right now is for the dumpster fee. It doesn't include the cost of actually transferring the quantity of trash that a business produces out of town. So, yeah.
And currently the town is subsidizing most of that.
Right. Yeah.
No, and the fact of the matter is folks just need to understand, and yeah, it's difficult because these are tough times, but a town our size is growing, and the availability of the town to subsidize these type of things coming to an end.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Does that feel clear, Matt? We're move forward, communicate well.
Bring this to the board.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Yes,
Jim,
sir.
you sound good? Okay.
Absolutely.
All righty, then last up on our agenda, we have the board directed the finance committee to discuss the Southwest Colorado Rural Philanthropy Days sponsorship request. Let me pull up the. Unfortunately, I did not get a memo written up for this.
That's okay. I mean, I can summarize for what we talked about. So for anybody listening, Southwest Colorado Rural Philanthropy Days came to us to ask for $1,500 in sponsorship. They are a group that's trying to connect nonprofits in the area to funders. And this year, they are proposing to have an actual event day in Silverton for Silverton-focused nonprofits. And so if nonprofits are not able to go to the actual event in Durango, then they could get some face-to-face time, bringing people up, sharing the story of our community. And I'll say I met with some of this group earlier this summer, and there were several nonprofits involved that met with them. And I think I appreciated at least that this group heard that we'd like to tell our Silverton story. We'd like people to know how we're unique. And I think this group has been successful in bringing funding to the area. For me, the challenge here is this is outside of our typical funding cycle for how we've funded nonprofits. And we just did generously fund a whole variety of nonprofits. And I'm just concerned not on the merits of this request. I think if this would have come at our typical cycle, I think it would have absolutely checked the boxes of something we would want to support. The amount is reasonable, the leveraging potential for our local nonprofits could be good. But it's just tricky to me, and I don't know if you feel same or differently, Jim, to start having more one-off requests when we've already budgeted what we have. And so, if we were a different organization, if things came outside the funding cycle, it would be like, sorry, that's not our process. That's not how we do it. This is great, but we can't approve this kind of on procedural grounds. And I guess I really believe in the mission here, but I'm just worried if we start to do a lot of one-offs like this, we're going to wind up with, another $15,000 worth of requests or $20,000 worth of requests throughout the year. And that is a concern in how we say no and balance that.
No, I agree with you. But I was the one that asked for it to come to the finance committee because I do believe in this cause, and I think that we can be creative and find $1,500 somewhere. I agree with you 100%. If it wasn't turned in on time, then that's it. Doors closed. We move on to the next year. That's it. However, Beth made Kramer, for those of you at home, made an impassioned speech and a request. And I think this is something that we can do. This is something that's going to benefit our town and an investment for our community down the road. And for $1,500, I think we can find it somewhere. That's just me.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on principle. I think it's an insignificant amount of money in the scheme of our budget. Do we have any ideas for going forward? Because it's only January and this is the first thing that's come across our plate. And you've been on the board longer, Jim. How do you think we manage this going forward? Because we have kind of a new process of nonprofits making requests as part of the budget cycle. And also we're probably going to have one-off requests. And what do you think has worked well in the past? And what do you think is a good process or criteria for evaluation for the future?
I 100% agree with you again. This is going to happen. It is only January. And it's a case-by-case basis. Obviously, there's some that don't make any sense at all. We'll hear them out. We can, not to sound blunt, but we can kill it there on the floor. Sending it to us at the finance committee is saying, hey, we feel that this is worthwhile. We're going to reconsider or consider how we're going to finance this, or if we can. But this would be step 2 in the process of those one-offs, in my opinion. But yeah, I foresee this happening throughout the year. It's just going to happen. Is there a perfect way to handle it? Nah.
Yeah. One thing that came to mind is planning for the future. Obviously, we have this request in front of us, but I think an ask I'd like to make of Gloria and Matt, as you can convey this, is that as we move into the next round for next year, that I think we all talked about having more clear criteria for how we kind of make these decisions. That's the first piece. And then I think the second piece is maybe an idea of budgeting a certain amount, but only allocating a portion of it at the beginning of the year or beginning of our budget cycle, so that we know that we're going to spend whatever, $50,000 in a good year on nonprofits, and we'll allocate 35,000 of that in the first part of the budgeting cycle, and then we'll retain some for more discretionary stuff throughout the year. So maybe thinking of it in kind of that approach, or I don't know, I just love to have a conversation either in the finance committee framework or a work session with the board on how we do evaluate all this, because it is going to get to be more requests. We have a lot of active nonprofits, and we are going to have to pick and choose and set different amounts and have some sort of ranking and criteria I think, as we go forward. So that's just kind of a larger planning request I'd like to make. Or process request. Well, Jim, do you have any good financial ways to make this happen?
Yeah, we just do it.
Staff direction to find the money?
Yeah, I mean, that's my direction. I think we can find the money and do it. One of the things that we discussed, Dana, you, myself, Gloria, and T, was in the criteria process when we had the spreadsheet out. What benefits the town of Silverton? Are these items being submitted that benefits our town first and foremost? Are these submitted by locals? Are these requests and submittals that we're going to see any sort of return on? This to me checks those boxes. So I feel like our own processes that we came up with over a month ago, we're able to apply that right now, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. Is the timing wrong? Yeah, absolutely. But you know, with all the other boxes being checked, I think we can find it.
Yeah. And the amount is not, it'd be different if we got asked for $10,000.
No, of course.
Or 15. Yeah. 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 I can be persuaded. Show me the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think, again, I just don't, being put in the situation where at the end of the year, there's $20,000 still that we spent, kind of $1,000 at a time, and wanting to be mindful that if we're going to end up by the end of the year spending $20,000, $1,000 at a time, is that really what we wanted to spend the $20,000 on? It's like my kids spending all their money $1 at a time on Kendall concessions. That's great, but maybe they really did want to spend, $25 on a new Lego or something. So just being mindful of that, I think. But I don't disagree with your rationale, Jim.
Thanks. And yours. I agree. No Lego is worth that much.
That's right. That's right. So I think the memo was written like having a motion. Do we give staff direction that we want to approve this, but then we need to make a motion in the board meeting to expend these funds or reallocate funds?
So my interpretation is that we put forth the motion that will approve this motion to go and dig deeper and find this money. And then this will come back up in front of the trustees at our next meeting.
Yeah.
For a final vote.
Yeah. That the finance committee is making recommendation that we fund it. Yeah.
Did we do that or no?
Yeah. We don't get to make a motion. We're just making a recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
We're recommending, Matthew. I'm making up words.
That's right. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Matt, for facilitating us.
That's my Bushism for the day. I'm recommending.
All right, so I think that wraps up our agenda for the day.
Well, very cool.
Thanks, Jim. Enjoy the warmth.
I will.
I'll go make a snow angel for you.
Take lots of pictures. Send me pictures.
That's right.
All right, so it is 9:47 a.m. and I adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks.